Oh wow, we have an episode packed to the brim with fun, interesting stuff today. We're going to talk about David Bowie, Satanism, the Illuminati, and conspiracy theories. What do these all have to do with each other? We'll get right back to that in just a sec. But first we need a... Oh, sounds like somebody's visiting Mr. Newton's neighborhood today. Let's go see who it is.
Jocelyn! Look everybody, it's Jocelyn!
Hi everybody!
Come on in!
I was just about to film a video about David Bowie, Satanism, and the Illuminati. So I was thinking, you haven't done a video since like our third video almost exactly a year ago. You wanna co-host it with me?
Fuck yeah, let's tag team this bitch. But first, to David Bowie.
To David Bowie.
Oh, Jesus. Oh. Oh.
Welcome to Mr. Newton's neighborhood.
Welcome to Mr. Newton's neighborhood.
My name is Jocelyn.
And I'm Scott Newton.
My neighbors know me as Beatrice Bones.
Beatrice Bones and I will be alternating back and forth from segment to segment today. But before I have her come over here, I'm going to say a quick little thing about David Bowie and what this video is going to be, since the title and intro are so strange. When I heard David Bowie passed away, I was shocked, obviously, since his cancer was kept private, but I was also really sad. He was a really big influence on my life as both a fan and a musician. I make shitty music though, whereas David Bowie was a musical genius. David Bowie is in my top 3 favorite bands and musicians: Pink Floyd, 9 Inch Nails, and David Bowie. My friend Brittany Searle is David Bowie's biggest fan, by the way. Hi, Brittany. Now, some of you may be thinking, how can you put 9 Inch Nails above David Bowie? Well, I don't know that I actually can. Trent Reznor, also known as 9 Inch Nails, said that the 9 Inch Nails album Downward Spiral was greatly influenced by David Bowie's album Low. Trent Reznor was also a huge David Bowie fan. In fact, Reznor and Bowie have also performed and worked together. Trent Reznor had many great things to say about David Bowie, and not just as a good person, major influence, and musical collaborator, but also a support in getting Reznor clean and sober. Trent Reznor said, "I met Bowie at not a great time in my life. He was sober and I wasn't. He took me under his wing as kind of a mentor and offered me some words of wisdom that haunted me and ended up helping me. He'd been there, he saw the path ahead of me, and of course I had to go down that path a little bit further. But when I did get clean, I reached back out to him basically to apologize for being a fuck-up. He's really cool and a nice guy, suave and funny as hell," end quote. Bowie wasn't just an amazing musician, but a great human being as well. Naturally, I've been binge-watching Bowie videos the last week and reminiscing, and a video by the YouTuber Vigilant Christian kept popping up with the claim that David Bowie's video Blackstar is a devil-worshipping ritual and is full of curses, and that Bowie is part of the Illuminati. I finally watched the Vigilant Christian's video, and immediately knew we had to do an episode touching on these claims. And the Vigilant Christian wasn't the only video with conspiracy theories attached to David Bowie's Blackstar video. Some YouTubers even claimed it was a warning for Nibiru, which is a conspiracy theory that our planet will collide with a massive planetoid in the near future. I want to do a video just on the Nibiru conspiracy, so we won't get into that today. But it's worth noting that the same people claiming Blackstar has anything to do with Nibiru also claim that Taylor Swift and the Zionists divided the Illuminati. Throughout this episode, you'll also learn some things that might surprise you about the late great David Bowie. Alright, so I've been rambling long enough. Let's get to it. Here's Beatrice.
In order to approach the Vigilant Christians video about David Bowie's music video, Blackstar, we need to touch on a few other topics first. First, we'll touch on Satanism, which is probably not what you think it actually is. Second, the Illuminati. Third, conspiracy theories. And last but not least, fourth, talk about David Bowie's personal beliefs. And then we're going to dissect the Vigilant Christians' claims and see if there's anything to it. Satanism, it's a little weird, but it's not as cut and dry as one might suppose. It's actually kind of a philosophy. There's 2 types of Satanism. Theistic Satanism, where they view Satan as a supernatural deity, some sort of god from hell and beyond, who's kind of a patriarch and authority, but not omnipotent. Then there's the much less known, but more commonly practiced atheist Satanism. When you hear about a real Satanist, this is usually what they're talking about. It's based on a philosophy which was started in 1966 by Anton LaVey, who founded the Church of Satan and wrote the Satanic Bible. But his philosophy is not devil worship, since they don't actually believe in the devil or Satan, which literally translated from Hebrew means the opposer. In opposition, they use the name Satan as a kind of you bird finger to Christianity. They believe in giving into our own carnal desires that Christianity has many restrictions on. No murder, no sacrifice, not part of Satanism whatsoever. The philosophy revolves around a sense of individualism, egoism, and self-preservation. We're out here to survive. It's not a spiritual religion, but a carnal one. We're basically just another animal. They use the symbol of Satan, representing liberty, enlightenment, and uninhibited wisdom. However, they do have silly rituals, which to me seems counterintuitive to the intellect of the Enlightenment. They also incorporate magic, even though magic isn't real. If you don't believe me, ask a magician. So, the concept is there's greater magic and lesser magic. Greater magic focuses on emotional energy and self-transformation. Lesser magic uses the law of attraction to influence others. The law of attraction sounds familiar if you've read The Secret. So not only is the law of attraction bullshit, it has roots in Satanism. So now you can throw your useless satanic vision board out the way. Side note, we'll be doing an episode on the laws of attraction in the future. God! Now, your favorite neighbor Scotty is going to tell you a little bit about how conspiracy theories work.
Thanks, Ms. Bones. Conspiracy theories. This is the longest segment, but also the most important segment if we're going to understand why the vigilant claims are utter bullshit. When talking casually, I may have been known to say conspiracy theorists are crazy, not so whack jobs. But I've been being unfair and generalizing. Conspiracy theories are fascinating partially because the people who believe them are often quite intelligent and even sometimes well educated. They often know a lot about the topics their theories apply to. Most people aren't good at thinking logically and consistently, although we all think we are. You may not buy into conspiracies like this one, but since you have a human brain, you probably commit these logical errors in other ways. We have to constantly question everything, especially ourselves. Yourself is the easiest person to fool. So, here's a really brief rundown of how conspiracy theories work and how they fool us. Then, when we get to the claims that the Vigilant Christian makes about Bowie, it will be easier to spot the bullshit. In the future, we will do a more extensive video on just conspiracy theories. So let's define a conspiracy theory first and separate it from a real conspiracy and then see how they work. A conspiracy is two or more people conspiring to cover up or cause a generally harmful event. In the case of conspiracy theories, it's usually people with great power and or influence and don't have solid evidence to back it up. A real conspiracy would be what happened on 9/11 when a group of extremist terrorists ran planes into the Twin Towers in the name of Islam. That was terrible. 9/11 is a perfect example because this actual conspiracy spawned conspiracy theories, which I think is pretty up. Mainly claimed by the 9/11 truthers who say that it was an inside job planned by our own government, and even sometimes going as far as to claim that the plane that hit the Pentagon was actually a missile. Of course, we'll eventually do an episode debunking the 9/11 truthers. Now, it's often said that a claim without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. The problem is, conspiracy theorists think that they have evidence because they don't understand what evidence is. The first sign of a conspiracy theory is that it's unfalsifiable, which means it cannot be proven false. For example, you can't prove unicorns don't exist. Go ahead, give me evidence there's no such thing as unicorns. You can't. Since there's no evidence for unicorns, we just automatically assume that they are not real. Of course, a conspiracy theory is a little more complicated than that. A conspiracy theory will be unfalsifiable. A conspiracy theorist will claim any evidence against it is actually evidence for it. For example, if you point out the fact there's no evidence that a saucer crashed where they insist that one did, they say, "Ah, see? They hid and destroyed the evidence." Or they might even accuse someone who's debunking their theory as being part of the conspiracy, like me. Then they can dismiss the counter evidence without losing any sleep over it. Or they'll even say you don't believe it because you're closed-minded or brainwashed. Or if you have actual physical evidence that goes against their claim, they'll say it's planted. You can't talk reason with a conspiracy theorist because they just keep moving the goalpost back every time you make a point. Another sign of conspiracy theory is, of course, the they or the them, the agents acting behind the scenes of the conspiracy. As Michael Shermer stated in his book The Believing Brain, which I highly recommend, the agents behind the pattern of conspiracy are elevated to near superhuman power to pull it off. End quote. Sometimes these agents are even supernatural or come from another world. The they could be anything from government, world leaders, big business CEOs, and even rock stars. I once heard a conspiracy that George W. Bush and Britney Spears were part of the same cult. Sometimes they are even reptile overlords. No shit, this is a real conspiracy theory. Look it up. They're an advanced alien race hiding among the rich and powerful with a plan to brainwash and enslave the human race. They're disguised with things like holographic masks. Sometimes they digitally glitch out and you can spot them in a blurry photo. Another key point, the conspiracy theorists see themselves as part of a small group who are able to see through the brainwashing propaganda and are heroes of sorts, shedding light on the they. Another telltale sign, the theorists generally have a very complex theory rather than the simple, commonly accepted explanation for the event or whatever it is they're talking about. They fail to apply the Occam's razor principle, which states the best explanation is usually the simplest one that requires the least unsupported assumptions. I.e., when you hear hooves galloping, do you think horses or unicorns? These complex plans also beg the question, why do it the hard way? The more complex a plan, the less likely it is to succeed. The conspiracies are usually unnecessarily complex. If you don't have a basic understanding of how science works and don't know how to apply scientific skepticism to a claim, it's surprisingly easy for anyone to fall for a conspiracy theory, whether it's natural cures they don't want you to know about, or UFOs being hidden at Area 51, or even claims that seem a lot more plausible, like the anti-vaxxers who claim vaccines are dangerous chemicals and that they can cause things like autism. We're definitely doing an episode on the anti-vaxxers. So remember, conspiracy theorists aren't usually insane no matter how nutty their claim seems. We're pattern seekers and we're amazing at it, to the point we can solve complex puzzles. It's actually one of our greatest traits. Unfortunately, it can often lead to patterns and puzzles that aren't even there. One of my favorite movies, Burn After Reading, is a great example of people seeing a conspiracy that wasn't there. Then along with pattern seeking, we apply confirmation bias, where we look for things that fit and ignore what doesn't. Our brains are as misleading as they are helpful. And the last point on conspiracy theories is probably obvious from what we've said so far, and that is that the conspiracy theory usually does not affect the rich and powerful. When hearing a conspiracy claim, ask, does it affect humans? Does it affect the rich and powerful? Are the rich and powerful humans? Yes, they are. So would it affect them? Yes, it would. For example, let's say they're hiding the cure for cancer. But wait, the rich and powerful still die of cancer. Or the chemtrails conspiracy, where we're getting drugs sprayed on us by airplanes and jets to keep us brainwashed or for some other sinister purpose. Once again, the rich and powerful are human and have to breathe air. So they would be affected by that. Unless they're lizard people, of course. Okay, Ms. Bones, while we're on the topic of conspiracies, tell us a little about the Illuminati.
So, the Illuminati is actually real. Well, sort of. There have been many groups named Illuminati. Some were real, while others were fiction. The Bavarian Illuminati was a secret society during the Enlightenment era. In fact, the word Illuminati comes from the Latin word illuminatus, which means enlightened.
Hi, so right about here, for a minute, the mic went out and we didn't know it, so for about 50 seconds, Beatrice is going to have a very sexy voiceover.
The Bavarian Illuminati was pretty much the opposite of what people think when they hear the word Illuminati. Their aim was to put a stop to superstition and stop obscurantism. Obscurantism is preventing facts and complete details of something from being known. It's intentionally restricting knowledge. The Bavarian Illuminati countered obscurantism with intellectual honesty and openness. The Bavarian Illuminati was outlawed, along with other secret societies, like the Freemasons, between 1784 and 1790.
Now, the current idea of the Illuminati, which you may be familiar with, the Illuminati is total bullshit, like that shit that, you know, you read when you read, what's that book called? The Da Vinci Code?
Oh, yeah.
This is the Illuminati that people refer to when talking about conspiracies of a secret society that controls world affairs and claim it's run by planting agents and powerful businesses and huge corporations high at levels in order to get complete power and control and establish what they would call a new world order. The current contemporary idea of the Illuminati supposedly has ties to the original Illuminati and is said to have masterminded most major world events. When you hear of the phrase, the New World Order or Illuminati, this is who they're generally speaking about. Conspiracy theories go as far as to claim the Illuminati is responsible for major events dating back for a couple centuries. For example, it's claimed by a few the Illuminati orchestrated the French Revolution. Of course, there's no evidence to support this whatsoever. We could easily do an entire episode on the Illuminati, since this scratches the surface, and eventually we will. But now it's time for Scotty to finally talk about David Bowie and his beliefs.
Thanks for that eye-opening topic, Beatrice. David Bowie's beliefs. So what exactly were David Bowie's religious, philosophical, and political beliefs? Well, there's no simple answer, unfortunately, because David Bowie was not a simple guy, and said that he was constantly exploring that most of his life. So all we can really do is look at what he said at different points in time and speculate. Once he said,
I was young, fancy-free, and Tibetan Buddhism appealed to me at that time. I thought, there's salvation. It didn't really work. Then I went through Nietzsche, Satanism, Christianity, pottery, and ended up singing. It's been a long road.
did he say Satanism in that list? Yep, but we've got to consider a few things before jumping to conclusions. He also mentioned Christianity, Buddhism, and Nietzsche, the famous atheist philosopher. And when he said this, it sounded like he was talking about the past even then. Satanism seemed to pique his interest in the 70s at the time he was doing glam shock rock and also doing a lot of drugs. It seems like the satanic imagery used in his shows and his album covers was used as more of a gimmick, just as Marilyn Manson used it in the 90s. They both knew if you piss parents off, you sell records. Now, let's suppose it was something he was into for personal reasons and not just for shock value. Keeping in mind what we learned about Satanism, he most likely wasn't a devil worshipper and may have not even believed in the devil. So what did he believe after the 70s? As we saw, he tried on many hats and was constantly searching. Recently, he may have fallen somewhere between agnostic and atheist. So let's look at his own words. He said, I honestly believe that my initial questions haven't changed at all. There are far fewer of them these days, but they're really important. Questioning my spiritual life has always been germane to what I was writing. Always. It's because I'm not quite an atheist and it worries me. There's that little bit that holds on. Well, I'm almost atheist. Give me a couple of months. That's the shock. All cliches are true. The years really do speed by, life really is as short as they tell you it is, and there really is a God, so do I buy that one? If all the other cliches are true, hell, don't pose me that one. Well, it looks like he still left us a little in the dark, but it's pretty damn obvious he was not a devil worshipper, as atheists don't believe in the devil. Now, Bowie's political views were interesting since he didn't really bother with politics. He was obviously very liberal and believed in freedom of expression, but didn't really seem to involve himself in politics. He seemed to think it was all pointless. He even refused to be knighted. When given the offer to be knighted, he said, I would never have any intention of accepting anything like that. I seriously don't know what it's for. It's not what I spent my life working for. End quote. Back to you, Miss Bones.
Now, we've all been waiting for. The Vigilant Christian isn't the only YouTuber claiming David Bowie's video Blackstar is satanic and that it is a sinister message and conspiracy. The internet is rampant with articles as well. Just Google David Bowie Blackstar and you'll be shocked at the lunacy. Since so many wild claims are being made, we thought we'd do a little digging and see if we could find the meaning intended by Bowie and the video's director, Johan Renck. As many artists do, they wanted to leave open to interpretation. Luckily, they give us a few breadcrumbs, as it were, to the true meaning behind the video. They mentioned Aleister Crowley as an influence. If you didn't know already, he's a truly fascinating but really f***ing crazy cat. He was a novelist, mountaineer, poet, and painter, among many things. Most interestingly, he claimed to be a prophet of the religion Thelema. Did I say that right?
I don't know. I think that's right. That's how I say
Okay.
it. Just keep going.
Which he founded. Crowley claimed that he was destined to guide humanity into the era of Aeon of Horus. He was also quite fond of experimenting with recreational drugs. That must explain a lot. Crowley was also nuts on so many levels. I don't know exactly what to say about him or where to start, so I would highly recommend researching him. Another thing Bowie said about the video is that the scarecrows were not messianic, as in they didn't represent the Messiah. Bowie also mentioned that he portrayed three main characters: the tormented introvert Button Eyes, the flamboyant trickster, and the priest guy. He also said the solitary candle referred to ISIS, as in Islam radicals. A spokesperson of David Bowie denied that it had anything to do with the Middle East. So who knows? Another interesting thing Bowie said about the video was about the twitching, convulsing people. He said they were inspired by old cartoons. You know, how in really old animations, when someone was standing still, like Tom and Jerry or Felix the Cat, they were like doing this weird bouncy bobbly wobble like... Anyway, he wanted to turn that into a dance. That's about all they gave us. Not much to go from. So the whack job, the Vigilant Christian, claims to know exactly what it means. Let's look at what he said and see if it jives.
Now we're finally going to look at the specifics on the Vigilant Christian's claims for Bowie's Black Star video. Get ready to laugh your ass off. The Vigilant Christian starts by telling us,
This is one of the most satanic videos ever produced. It's a satanic ritual being played out.
I don't know if he moves like this because he's not in the video, but I do. Now, right off the bat, it's clear he does not understand Satanism, and as you can see from his video's thumbnail, he believes in the Illuminati. So right from the start, he's discredited himself pretty bad. Also, as I mentioned, Bowie was most likely agnostic or atheist, so he'd have no reason to perform a satanic ritual unless he was going back to his shock rock roots, which he said he'd grown out of long ago. And even if he was going back to that, then it would most likely be for theatrics. Then the Vigilant Christian said,
If you allow yourself to be entertained by the video, you're actually participating in the satanic ritual.
Of course, the Vigilant Christian hasn't given any proof of this, and I haven't heard any stories of anyone suddenly being possessed by Satan after watching this video. We're gonna start calling the Vigilant Christian VC for short now, because it's getting really annoying saying Vigilant Christian so much. So, yeah. Okay, so next, VC tells us,
It's a witchcraft curse from a satanic puppet of the entertainment world.
once again, we have to take his word for it. Not to mention magic, witchcraft, and witches have zero evidence to support them whatsoever. He's also invoking the rich and powerful fallacy we talked about earlier. Here's another great quote from his video.
Witchcraft is real. Spirituality is real. Curses are real. These elite know it and are manifesting it at high levels of sophistication.
So, we touched on the first part already. Witchcraft has no evidence to support it. But remember when I talked about how the more complex the conspiracy, the less likely it is to be true. Plus, he's talking about the elite again. Then he goes on to say,
This is literally a witchcraft curse that's developed by an elite Satanist.
and goes on to talk about David Bowie's relation to Aleister Crowley and how Crowley was a Satanist. Just a fun fact, it actually annoys a lot of Satanists when they say that Aleister Crowley was a Satanist. He was many very strange things, but a Satanist was not one of them. Then he shows us a picture of Jesus stomping on a snake, as if we weren't laughing hard enough at this point already. Anyway, in Vigilant Christian's video, he basically tells us, if you enjoy this video, you could go to hell, but don't worry, he told you how to watch it and avoid hellfire. He said,
I'd like to advise you, if you watch this video, it is a curse. Make sure you go in it covered in prayer, making sure you would pray the blood of Christ over yourself.
phew, now I know how to watch it safely. I just need to be covered in blood. As if VC's video wasn't funny enough, he mentions alchemy and then starts talking about ancient astronauts. What the f***? He believes in that too? Is there any crazy conspiracy this guy does not believe in? Another side note, we're going to eventually do an episode on ancient aliens also. This guy is a goldmine of topics for anyone who likes to expose bullshit. And you know I do. It reminds me of the quote, I believe in keeping your mind open, but not so far open that your brain falls out. That quote's actually what our opening animation is based on. Hey, Vigilant Christian, see that thing down by your feet there? Pick it up, it's your brain, put it back in your head. Do you remember that dance that was based on old cartoons that we talked about earlier? Apparently David Bowie was wrong about his own idea. VC informs us that it's really mocking Christianity and Christians. He also thinks the priest character, the scarecrows, and the tormented button eyes represent and are mocking Christians. He might be correct that a few things in the Blackstar video are mocking Christianity, who knows? But that begs the question, are these characters a parody of Christianity and Christians, or are they devil worshippers doing rituals? Which is it? Often a conspiracy theory will be inconsistent. To quote Michael Shermer again from his book The Believing Brain, the tendency to commingle facts and speculation without distinguishing between the two and without assigning degrees of probability of factuality, the less likely the conspiracy theory represents reality, end quote. While talking about the mocking scarecrows, VC starts going off about how demons will do whatever it takes, like pedophilia and sacrificing children. Just what the where the hell was that in the video? Also, VC informs us that devil worship is like a drug. Even though Bowie isn't a devil worshipper, he says,
It's like heroin. They get this fix of like, I need to get my satanic power.
He also said the astronaut is a fallen angel. Maybe it's just an astronaut. Who knows? We don't know, that's the point. It goes on and on like this until at the end when he plays a part of a video that goes quote mining for 70s David Bowie quotes and taking many of them out of context. Now keep in mind this was at a time when Bowie said he didn't know what was going on and didn't know what he was saying most of the time, or a lot of the time, and living on mountains of cocaine. He's retracted some of his statements from that time, and like he said, he had grown out of that stage decades ago. Wouldn't that suck if people held us to every little stupid thing we said when we were young, or drunk, or high, or whatever? That would be so shitty. Anyway, this is a clear case of quote mining and confirmation bias where he's pattern seeking and forcing things to fit into his own previously held ideas. Alright, so we've mentioned a lot of topics in passing today and we'd like to know which ones you would be most interested in seeing in a future episode. We mentioned conspiracy theories, the Illuminati, the collision with Nibiru, the secret and the law of attraction, the 9/11 truthers, the anti-vaxxers and vaccines, ancient aliens, and the government covering up UFOs. So let us know in the comments which of these sound the most fun to you. Thanks for watching, be a neighbor, and subscribe. Here's some bloopers.
Jocelyn! Focus! She's come to our fucking hood.
I'm sorry, I should let you talk.
I didn't even know what I was going to say. So I was just about to film a... So I was just about to film a video.
Welcome to Mr. Newton's neighborhood.
Wait. Gotta get you.
Son of a bitch! Tell you a little bit how about... One more time for safety! Safety dance! Wait. No. Obscurantism. Fuck. Obscurantism. The Bavlar... An entire episode... David Bowie! Oh, shit!
I think that's right. That's how
You know what I'm talking about. Scotty interpreted. It's interpreted. Is that what I fucking said? Scotty interpreted the movie. I said interpreted. The video guarantee you he'd be. I'm sorry. I was starting to go on a rant. I'm gonna read it. Never mind. I was talking about like, yeah. Scotty, come wrap up the video for us.
That means I gotta keep my buzz on.